40 of North America's best super late model racers, short track racing's premier drivers here at Hickory Motor Speedway for the 13th annual Easter Bunny 150 presented by My Computer Career. I'm Alan Dietz, glad to be here with you on ADSN for what's sure to be a great afternoon of racing action here at Hickory Motor Speedway. And beside me is the young driver that's going to be starting from the pole today, and Tate Fogelman, that is. The last couple of races, you've qualified fast, but fell back in the redraw. Today you qualified 10th, which isn't bad for 40 cars, but you pulled P number 1, so you'll start from the pole. I know you got to be pumped up about it.
Yeah, the last few races we've had fast cars every weekend. Qualified on 2 of the poles, but just luck have it, we redraw 10th or far back in the field most of the time, and we had mechanical problems in both races. So this week we qualified 10th, going to start in the pole, so hopefully that shows that things are going in the right direction.
You've won here at Hickory before with the quality of this field here today, which I think is as good as it's ever been. What's the strategy? Do you go out there and set the pace? How do you kind of work it starting from the pole?
Yeah, starting from the pole, you kind of I think I'm just going to set my own pace, and if a car wants to go by me and take off and lead a little bit, I'm going to let him. Running here in the past, I kind of know what pace I want to run to be there at the end and have tires at the end, so I'm going to see how fast people want to go at the beginning and let them go if they want to roll on.
Tate Fogelman, he's a third-generation racer. He's going to lead them down tonight here at Hickory Motor Speedway, America's most famous short track.
I think we got it dialed in pretty good for the race.
I'm just excited to see how this race is going to play out.
Welcome to ADSN's coverage of the 13th annual Easter Bunny 150 from here at the Hickory Motor Speedway in Hickory, North Carolina. I'm Alan Dietz. Glad to be here with you alongside Speed Sports' Derek Pernissiglio. And Derek, this Easter Bunny 150 has really grown to be one of the premier short track events of the spring.
You know, 13 years ago they started out with this race, and it grew exponentially over the years, and now it's become one of the biggest annual events at the Hickory Motor Speedway and for super late model racing.
Over 40 past super late models from across North America here this afternoon trying to make the field for the Easter Bunny 150. And Derek, once you get into it, 150 green flag laps. So there is some conservation that we're going to see in this race as guys try to save something there for the end, have a little bit of tire left for the end of the race.
Absolutely. Hickory Motor Speedway is one of those old, worn-out racetracks, so it's going to take a lot of tire management throughout the course of the race. A lot of these teams, they fight for forward grip all the time, so working that throttle, having that eggshell under the pedal is going to be paramount tonight, because you don't want to aggravate the tires, you don't want to get them too hot, because you do need a little bit of life left in them for the end.
Track opened in 1951 as a dirt track. It was paved in 1967, and it's not changed a whole lot since then. Let's take a look at qualifying from earlier today to see who some of the contenders are going to be here tonight. First car we'll take a look at, Derek, is Preston Peltier. And Preston, when you think about Hickory Motor Speedway and what it takes to win this Easter Bunny 150, he's the guy that you look at.
Oh, definitely. One of the guys that has this track figured out like the back of his hand. You don't come here as often as he does and win 4 Easter Bunny 150s. They know this track. Plus, Preston Peltier, he's one of the premier super late model short track drivers in the country.
And he actually lives in Colorado now. This car they towed from Colorado. They've got every intention of trying to win here tonight in the Easter Bunny 150. The second fastest qualifier this afternoon, that was Trevor Knowles in that white and red car number 22, owned by Donnie Wilson. And Donnie, another guy, one of the premier super late model drivers in the country, but also owning cars now. Trevor Knowles driving for him here today. We've seen Cole Butcher drive for him in the past.
Yeah, Trevor Knowles from Fuquay Varina, North Carolina. Like you said, Donnie Wilson, one of those longtime competitors in super late model racing, but he also knows how to field competitive cars, and that's important.
When you talk about contenders in super late model racing, this guy's always on the top 2 or 3 of that list. Bubba Pollard out of Sonoy, Georgia.
Bubba Pollard, another heavy hitters in super late model racing, like we talked about. One of the guys that is one of the drivers to beat down in the Gold Coast area of the country when he goes racing, and he's also a winner at the Winter Showdown all the way out in California.
And he's racing here this weekend to try to get locked into either the Oxford 250 or to Richmond in October, as is all of the drivers, including this young man, Kodie Conner, who you and I, Derek, have watched race for a long time.
Yeah, I watched him come up through the Bandolero ranks and then eventually the Legends, and now running full-size stock cars just like his father and grandfather before him. And interesting thing about that paint scheme that he's running, that's the same style tribute paint scheme that his father and grandfather ran for many years.
And we'll hear a little bit more from Cody a little bit later in the show, but a good qualifying run for him. Back to Preston Peltier real quick. That's actually a track record run, 14.4 seconds here around the Hickory Motor Speedway that got him the quick qualifying time today. Jeff Batten, hey, that's not a misprint. It is Nashville, North Carolina, and you might say, where's Nashville, North Carolina? It's over on the coastal, the eastern side of North Carolina. Jeff, this team is Uncle John Batten. They have been regulars in ever since Pass South started in 2006.
Yeah, that's the Batten Tile sponsored entry, and like you said, another mainstay to super late model racing, and this is exactly what short track racing needs. It's guys that, like them, that stay in this type of racing forever, and you could recognize them. Same with the guys that ran years ago.
Matt Craig in that car number 54, the only 2-time Pass South champion. He's won it the last 2 years and really established himself, Derek, I think, as the driver to beat in the Carolinas over the last couple of years.
And that team has also been a team to beat for years as well. When Jeff Fultz drove for that team, I mean, they won numerous championships in All-Pro and all sorts of super late model racing.
Tyler Church, local driver, former Pass South champion, 2014. He won the championship, a winner of the fall race here at Hickory in 2013. Sentimental for him always to race at Hickory, a place that he started at. His mom buried in the cemetery that overlooks turns 1 and 2.
Well, Tyler Church, like you said, from Concord, North Carolina, done a lot of laps in the short tracks here in the Southeast, especially here at the Hickory Motor Speedway and at the Concord Speedway.
Good to see a good qualifying run for Jarek Johnson, originally from Minnesota, now lives in Mooresville, North Carolina. The presenting sponsor for this year's Easter Bunny 150, My Computer Career, a longtime supporter of his, as is the POWMIA campaign.
You can watch some of these cars, too, as they come off the throttle. As they come off the corner, they're trying to really be easy on the throttle. They're getting a lot of wheel spin off the turns.
There you see the car number 00. That's Shane Lee. He finished 3rd in ARCA points last year. Another driver from right down the road in Newton, North Carolina. He cut his teeth here at Hickory Motor Speedway in late model stock cars.
Cut his teeth in late model stock cars, but eventually moved up to bigger and better things. He's run the ARCA Series, and later this season has actually some plans to compete in the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
And the 10th fastest qualifier, we saw him a little bit earlier, Tate Fogelman, redrew on the pole. He'll lead him down, 2015 Pass South champion and former Pass winner here at Hickory.
Another one of those second-generation drivers, like we talked about, him being the son of Jay Fogelman, who had so much success in the short tracks around this area. Tate Fogelman out on the track. Alan Dietz had a chance to talk to him after the redraw.
And now our 10th fastest qualifier to car number 8, a Tate Fogelman, one number to draw. And I think it's a number he's going to be glad to draw because he pulls pill number 1. So Tate Fogelman start from the pole. And Tate, you qualified on the pole the last couple of races and drew bad. Today you qualified 10th and you'll start from the pole. I think you got it figured out now.
Yeah, things seem to be going a little better today. We were pretty decent in practice yesterday, struggled this morning, but The guys never gave up. They wrenched on the car, and it's got it pretty good there the last practice, and it was decent there in qualifying. So I think it'll come to us in the race, and we'll be able to be there at the end.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
So Tate Fogelman will bring the field to green, and how much of a relief in his face did you see when he pulled that number 1 pill?
I saw a lot of relief in his face, and as we said a little bit earlier, he has actually been the fast qualifier in the last 2 races, but had bad draws, which led to misfortune in the races. Here, he was the 10th fastest qualifier. He draws on the pole, and a little bit of luck on his side. When we come back, we'll have more from the Easter Bunny 150, including the green flag to bring them down here at Hickory Motor Speedway.
We're talking about sports on
We're talking about sports at ADSN. I don't know how to say that.
We're talking about
sports in, oh God, I forgot.
ADSN.
What is it?
ADSN.
ADSN, okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about sports.
Talking about sports.
We're talking about sports.
Talking sports. Talking about sports. We're talking about sports on ADSN.
Talking about sports on ADSN.
We run the Pass South series, but we're actually out of Canada. It just sort of works with my work schedule at home, and we travel down here as much as we can to support these guys. It's a great series to run with, and we have a lot of fun here and learning a lot.
This is actually my first pass race ever. I ran the Snowflake at Five Flags. That was a couple months ago in December. Had a lot of fun there. We made it into the show. We were running about 19th at a quarter way through the race, and we got a little wreck due to the leaders. But it was a good learning experience there. Learned a lot about these cars and the drivers and everything.
I love this. I mean, this is perfect weather for me. This is like our summertime up home from Maine. But 2 feet of snow when I left. I heard it was rainy all weekend. The weekends prior to this race. So I'm glad he's got great weather, and looking forward to it and see if we can have a good time.
Welcome back to Hickory Motor Speedway for ADSN's coverage of the 13th annual Easter Bunny 150. And Derek, we saw right there how important this race is. Drivers coming from as far as Ontario, New Brunswick, Canadian provinces, Maine, Ben Rowe, we just saw him. That just tells you how important this race is, I think.
It's a huge race. It starts the season off, too, so it's also a chance for guys that were working all winter to break out their cars and see how they're going to run for the season.
Well, it's really amazing to see how this race has grown since its first running in 2006. But what we want to do now is introduce you to a young man who's trying to make his way in short track racing as he climbs the racing ladder.
When Cody was younger, I couldn't teach Cody how to play baseball. I couldn't teach him how to play football.
And I tried a few other sports when I was in middle school, and I couldn't get into it. Wasn't the best at it, but I wasn't too bad.
There was no interest there for me when I was younger of that stuff. So I could teach Cody racing.
And since then, I loved it. That race car is where everything began. And I first started out in quarter midgets, and that was my first ever race car. I went through a little driver's ed type program, and I got to learn the flags, the different colors, the green, yellow, the red.
And we worked on getting him into a car, and he tried it out, and he said, "Dad, this is what I want to do."
Gets out of the car, asks us
what we need him to do. He doesn't just go in the trailer and be on his phone. I mean, he helps us as much as he can. So I mean, he's not your, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but he's not your typical driver these days. We haven't got as far as the coming to me with issues thing, but as far as at the track, I would say I'm definitely a big brother figure to him.
I get it poppin', I get it wild, I get it, I'm steady mobbing. If I want it, I get it now.
My big thing with Cody was we're gonna win in every series that we race before we move to another series. And so far, Cody has accomplished that.
I have over 150 wins, along with 12 championships. In a full-size race car, I have been in victory lane 9 times.
When you can only afford race tires, it's a huge disadvantage. And for what we've done, mainly in pass, and being able to finish top 2 in points the last 2 years that speaks volume for what we are.
We definitely are the little team that could.
With what we have into the car, hand-me-down stuff, thanks to Jeff Foltz and Cody Jones and Fury Race Cars and Robert Hampke for everything that they do for us. We couldn't be on that racetrack and making Cody look like a superstar like he does. And to me, it's my world seeing him get out of that race car with a smile. It's something that I've always dreamed of, and to see him do it, it's just amazing.
There's a lot of hard work that goes into these race cars, and along with marketing, and now that I am the owner of Kodie Conner Racing, it just makes a win that much more valuable. And with me only being 17 years old, being able to compete with these other competitors that have many more years on me, along with a bigger budget, it definitely means a lot to go out there and be the best.
Alan, one of the things that strikes me so amazing with Kodie Conner is that he has so much talent. He's fast and competitive everywhere he goes, but he's still yet to win a race.
Still yet to win a race in Pass South, back when we had the Pass Pro Late Model Division. Won several races there, including the championship, but as you said, he's still looking for that first Super Late Model win. And how big would it be for it to come here today in the Easter Bunny 150? You see the festivities there, cars lined up on the front straightaway, getting introduced to this field as the next generation of racers looks on from the stand. We'll be back with the green flag here on ADSN when we come back.
What time is it? What time is it? Game time! Get ready for a new experience. We're talking about sports on ADSN.
This is kind of the nitty-gritty where they're doing all the dirty work and getting ready for the season.
So let's just put that out there to begin with Kevin Casey, Reggie Walker, Mike Pacheco, John Tobias. Tune in each week, and the Talking About Sports experience will blow you away.
I was wondering if a bowl of soup came with that hat that you were wearing.
I got some shorts though that night.
What better can you get? I mean, you're out here with friends.
Got to see both races with one ticket, which is a pretty good deal.
This is awesome.
this is their first time at a race at all.
Yeah, I think it adds a little bit for the kids. Yeah.
Hopefully one day I can get him into racing. He gets to see what competition and camaraderie is like. A lot of exciting racing, tires squealing, rubber smoking, just awesome time.
Back here at Hickory Motor Speedway in Hickory, North Carolina, and the field is rolling now. The 13th annual Easter Bunny 150 parade laps going on. I'm Alan Dietz, Derek Pernasiglio alongside as the anticipation builds for the green flag.
Cars are just starting to warm up right now. They are running out on the track. Really, this is also a chance for the teams to get some heat in the engines, the tires. You have to heat up the rear end assembly too. You can't start all these race cars. They also have to be brought up to operating temperature. And what you'll also see too under these pace laps is drivers will two-foot it. They'll actually ride the brake around the track while their foot's in the gas. So what they're trying to do is get that friction and heat built up in the brake system as well.
Yeah, it's a brisk evening, lower 50s right now here at Hickory Motor Speedway. You see the fans, they've got their pullovers on, some jackets on, and as you said, these teams right now warming these cars up, warming the brakes as they form up back behind the pace car with Tate Fogelman and Shane Lee up on the front row.
And this is also the time of year where setups get strange. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but here's the starting order. Tate Fogelman on the pole. Shane Lee, he's going to bring him down alongside.
And remember, these top 10 qualifiers redrew for their starting positions. Bubba Pollard, Trevor Knowles, and Preston Peltier. The top 3 qualifiers, they start back in 8th, 9th, and 10th. Now, 11 through 20, they line up straight up as they qualified. You see Ben Rowe back there. Well, actually, Rowe, he and Jeff Fultz starting 14th and 19th respectively. Brandon Setzer, all very good contenders there in the back half of the top 20.
Yeah, we're going to keep an eye on Jeff Fultz and Ben Rowe coming from that deep in the field. Of course, Jeff Fultz won a couple of weeks ago down in Myrtle Beach.
DJ Shaw, Derek Ramstrom, Jimmy Doyle, some of the drivers coming through the last chance race. DJ Shaw actually won the last chance race. These are all the drivers that have qualified here this afternoon at Hickory Motor Speedway, as it looks like we're closing in on, see if they'll get the one to go indication this time. Not just yet, still warming those tires up, Derek.
Well, we just heard the tower tell the pace car to pick up the pace a little bit, to start rolling a little bit faster, because what that does too, of course, it gets the drivers pumped up. They also start to get them rolling a little bit quicker. They start to get more heat in the tires. You can see them hit the throttle too to try to clear the engines out so they don't load up on the starts also.
These cars, lightweight, relatively speaking, compared to the cars you might see in NASCAR. A lot of horsepower, 600 horsepower. They race on Hoosier Bi-Supply tires, and they're powered by Sunoco Racing. Fuel as the field is doubled up back behind the pace car, and we close in on the green flag here as the lights are off. Just a half lap away from going green here. And what we traditionally see in pass is the pace car pulls in on the initial start, a slow start to the start-finish line. The rest of the starts and restarts, the flagman will always start the race. Tate Fogelman, your leader, into turn 3 over Shane Lee as they come around to complete lap number 1, and really now starting their first fast lap here in front of this big crowd at Hickory Motor Speedway.
Yeah, and the funny part is, too, is you're going to see the lap times throughout the course of the race be a heck of a lot slower compared to the qualifying times. You can't run continuous qualifying laps here all the time because you're just going to burn your equipment up.
One thing the drivers have told me is they're really surprised how much grip this racetrack has, this version of the Easter Bunny 150. And you got to think they didn't race here last week because the race got rained out. Early in the year, the track is still fairly green. In other words, it doesn't have a lot of rubber on it, Derek, and I think that's going to make for a fast race. We saw it in qualifying. Racetrack's got a lot of grip.
It does, but you have to remember, too, we've had some test sessions here in the last couple of weeks, and the teams came in yesterday, and they practiced practically all day yesterday in the nice sunlight, so it laid a lot of rubber down, and there was no rain or any moisture throughout the course of the evening that was able to wash any of that rubber away, so it's all really still down on the racing surface.
Fogelman about 5 car lengths right now in front of Shane Lee as they already work into some lap traffic. Harold Fair Jr. in the car number 71 from Michigan. He had a problem on the initial start there, so that's what's got him well back right now, only about 5 car lengths in front of the leader, Tate Fogelman.
And that's tough, too, because when you start at the rear of the field like that, in a field like this, by the time the leaders have got the green and they're already diving into turns 1 and 2, the back markers are still just coming out of the 4th corner, so they're almost pretty much, to start the race, a half a track behind.
No doubt about it, this racetrack less than 4/10 of a mile, just measures 0.363 of a mile around. The highest banking on this track is only 14 degrees, so not a lot of banking here, but I'll be interested to see as we go into this race, Derek, if that outside groove comes in. It was really good about 5 years ago. It hasn't been as good in recent years, but as we said, the track's got more grip. Right now, Tate Fogelman working the middle of the racetrack as he works here around Hickory Motor Speedway. Shane Lee back in second right now, former regular here. And Derek, he told me, although the ARCA cars are a lot heavier than these past Super Late models, he said the horsepower ratio is a lot more similar than you might think.
Yeah, very true. I mean, these cars have on the average of 650 to 700 horsepower. The same with the ARCA cars. They are in that horsepower range. The big difference that you feel, obviously, is the weight. The ARCA cars being anywhere from 32 to 3,300 pound cars. These cars, much lighter. They don't even tip the scales at 3,000 pounds. They're just a little under 2,900, 2,800 pounds.
No doubt about it, as the field right now works lap number 13 here in the Easter Bunny 150. We saw Shane Lee back in second. One car looked to be off the pace. There was Travis Stearns, and we've seen a change for third. Matt Craig, the 6-time winner last year, won the last pass race out in that car number 54, working around Jarek Johnson to take third.
Yeah, he practically made mincemeat out of the entire field at the Caraway Speedway, led from wire to wire, and he said in victory lane, he said he knew his car was good, so he knew if he could run hard, it would make everyone else run hard, and they would burn their stuff up faster, and in the end, he just walked away from the rest of the pack.
And that's where you see a lot of times in these pass races, the driver leading dictates. Does he push it a little bit harder? Does he hold back a little bit? As now we see a battle for fifth. Derek Griffith, the winner of the past national opener at Dillon Motor Speedway in February. He and Preston Peltier going at it here on lap 17. Peltier, remember, that car number 48 started 10th, but he set a new track record here earlier today in qualifying.
Yeah, we're still very early in this race, though. Preston is being very patient.
Oops.
He started, well, we have a caution flag out on the track. Timmy Hudson with the yellow flag out.
Oh, and problems here for the 00 of Jimmy Renfro Jr. and the car number 2 of Gracie Trotter. She ran so well here in the Mason-Dixon meltdown back last November. Renfro, he'll pull the 00 car in, a lot of damage to the nose of his machine. And as we said, we also saw Gracie Trotter caught up in this accident in the car number 2, that car being wrenched by crew chief Bond Suss, as the crew right now looking on that 00 Jimmy Renfro, trying to get that car repaired. More from here at Hickory Motor Speedway when we come back after caution number 1 here in the Easter Bunny 150.
Got to go a full timeout. All I got to say is it football season yet? This stuff is too good to pass up. There's so many things that have to go right in a no-hitter. A huge game changer. I would have won the Powerball like 6 times. It's Kevin Casey here, and this is your podcast, Talking About Sports, the Carolina's own sports talk show.
Back at Hickory Motor Speedway for a spring tradition here. The Easter Bunny 150 right now working caution. Tate Fogelman, the leader after 17 laps over Shane Lee and Matt Craig. Fans following ADSN along in the grandstands here this afternoon.
So far, we've reached that strange part of the evening to Alan, this is also the strange part of the season where you've got warm weather during the day, really actually hot temperatures where you can practically walk around in jeans and a t-shirt, and then at night you've got to bundle up. The temperature goes down, and this is where it can really send the crews for a loop because the track temperature changes so much and the handling of the car can go away.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt about it. As the field will get doubled up here, Tate Fogelman, Shane Lee up on the front row. One thing, if you're not familiar with past racing, you'll see throughout the night all double file restarts. Caution laps do not count. And then there is a lucky dog rule for the first car one lap down, gives them a free pass. The other thing that I love about this is that say you're in the pits for 10 caution laps. You don't lose 10 laps in the pits because the cautions don't count.
Right, 10 green flag laps, so you don't have to worry about, like you said, going a lap down. Plus, it also makes it safer. And we've got an issue with one of our heavy hitters, Alan.
Bubba Pollard, you see, being pushed back to the pits here. The restart having to be called off here, and this is very similar to something we saw out of him in practice today. In the final practice, his car stalled coming into the pit, so a short day for Bubba Pollard, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of disappointed people as we see Kodie Conner in that car number 45. We talked to him a little bit earlier as he right now rides in the top 10 there, up, I think in the 10th spot right now, up on the outside of Jeff Batten as the field forms up now back again behind the pace car, set for a restart here on lap 17.
Flagman Timmy Hudson with the furled green flag in hand, letting them know next time by we are going racing. And this is the point where the drivers are all cinching their belts up tight, getting ready. The spotter's telling them to start to get back up on the wheel.
Outside groove is really good here at Hickory Motor Speedway, typically on restarts. But Fogelman in that Ford gets a good start down on the inside of Shane Lee. Lee gets a good run out of turn number 2 as they head down the back straightaway. Fogelman will clear into turn 3.
Fogelman did get a really good restart, but Shane Lee, he got snookered a little bit, but tried not to let him get too far away. He was still right there hanging on his quarter, and he's trying to work that outside line. Alan, you talked about that outside line possibly coming in the previous segment before the commercial break. You also have to remember, too, as these cars start running throughout the course of the night, the groove is going to widen out over the course of 150 laps.
No doubt about it. And Shane Lee driving that 00 for Fathead Racing. Jamie Yelton, the owner, a former regular here himself in late model stock cars. These two teaming here this weekend, and Fogelman will be able to clear. And it looks like Lee said, you know what, it's early right now. I'm not going to pressure these tires. He backed off there going into turn 1, it appeared.
And that's exactly what he did do, because Shane Lee could see that he could make a run on Tate Fogelman up on the outside, but the problem is you're just going to use up a lot of equipment trying to hang out up there. You're better off settling in, run some laps out, and then try it again. And
it's kind of a cat and mouse game, isn't it, Derek, because, you're trying to see where your competitor is good at, but where he might not be good at, where you can take advantage of him. You're making notes. You're creating a database in your head that can come in handy late in the race.
Exactly. What you're doing is you're building up your mental strategy for an attack plan later, because you're trying to figure out where the guy in front of you is their slowest, where their weakest point is on the track. And what you want to do is find that weak point and take advantage of it so you can make the pass.
Field working out of turn number 4. You see this will battle back at about the 6th spot. Peltier down to the inside of Trevor Knowles. Now Knowles working that outside groove that we've talked about here in that red and white car number 22. He works up to the outside of Jerry Johnson. He clears him with relative ease going back to turn 1.
Really good move for Trevor Knowles. He's able to roll the top, and the cool part was he's able to get that good launch off the corner when he gets back to the throttle. Preston Peltier saw what Knowles is doing. He's trying to do the same thing.
And again, it goes back to what we were talking about. Maybe you see where a car was struggling, and you take advantage of that based on what you saw in front of you. That's what we're seeing now. All of these cars jumping up to the outside of Jarek Johnson. Peltier's worked around. Now Tyler Church trying to do the same in the 7 car.
It's monkey see, monkey do, Alan. I mean, sometimes all you have to do is see one guy up there trying it, and then you're in the driver's seat going, well, let me see if it works for me. And then it does, and then everybody starts following you after that.
Another black car, number 54, trying to work his way up. That's the 54X of Jeff Fultz, racing for the Walker Motorsports team. Started 14th, and he's worked his way up into the top 10. We go back a little bit further. There you see the 60 car, DJ Shaw, the 2-time past North champion from New Hampshire. He won the last chance race, started in 21st. Former winner of the Easter Bunny 150. He's down on the inside of Wyatt Alexander in the 96 car. And closing in now on the 49 of Jeff Batten, who qualified in the top 10.
DJ Shaw, another one of those competitors who did some time in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series, ran a few seasons, didn't really get a win or anything like that, had some top 10s and top 5s along the way. His father, of course, Dale Shaw, a longtime competitor in the Busch Grand National Series and Busch North Series, tried to follow in his father's footsteps, but he has really found a home for himself in super late model competition.
And this is a great battle right now just outside the top 10 between DJ Shaw in that 60 car and the 96 of Wyatt Alexander. Alexander doing really well up on the outside. He'll clear DJ Shaw as he looks back to the rear now of Jeff Batten and tries to attack there. Tate Fogelman continues to lead. There you see the 35 car of Derek Ramstrom. Finished third here in the Easter Bunny a couple of years ago, as we're still here in the early stages, just 34 laps in.
Derek Ramstrom, a talented young racer, a former super late model track champion at the Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park, hailing from West Boylston, Massachusetts. He's done his time in a lot of different cars. Whoa, trouble out there.
Oh, big problem. Big problem. And these were the cars we were just watching, Derek.
Wyatt Alexander involved, Batten with a lot of front end damage.
Looks like the 00 of Brian Krusek. And that all started as you saw the 76 go through the screen of Jarek Johnson. I just saw it out of the corner of my eye. It looked like some contact between Jeff Fultz and Johnson. And as Johnson's car spun around, Jeff Batten in that 49 car on the others, nowhere to go. And he's hard in that outside wall. And we take it for granted sometimes, but it's not a big racetrack. As you see Batten very frustrated. Here's we're under the second caution of the evening here in the Easter Bunny 150. You're watching here on ADSN.
We're talking about sports on AN.
We're talking about sports at ADSN. I don't know how to say that.
We're talking about
sports in, oh God, I forgot.
ADSN.
What is it?
ADSN.
ADSN, okay.
Yep. We're talking about sports.
Talking about sports.
We're talking about sports.
Talking sports. Talking about sports. We're talking about sports on ADSN.
Talking about sports on ADSN.
Back at the 13th annual Easter Bunny 150 presented by My Computer Career. I'm Alan Dietz, Derek Pernicelio alongside. Fans are bundled up and excited here this evening, Derek, for tonight's race.
You know, I love just seeing those little kids that stand down in the front of the grandstands behind the flag man. They've got their flags out. Those are some of the future officials that are in training, and a lot of those young kids become flagmen at short tracks.
Future racers, too. You and I both grew up going to racetracks, and I think you look at anywhere from the drivers to the officials to the announcers to the flagmen. A lot of kids look up to those officials at the track. As we're 35 laps in, Tate Fogelman, he has led all but one lap this afternoon. Shane Lee led that other lap by about a nose. And Matt Craig, the two-time defending Pass South champion right now, rides back in third.
Yeah, no changes in the top three at all, but keep an eye out from fifth on back because we've got a lot of guys that are coming through the field. And remember, Preston Peltier, he started 10th at the drop of the green, but he's now up to 6th.
Yeah, he's worked his way up to 6th now as the track is cleared from that accident. Over in turn 2, you see the field working through the speedy dry. And if you're new to short track racing or racing in general, basically sometimes we nickname that the kitty litter, and it really works the same way, doesn't it, Derek?
It's exactly what it does. It's the oil dry that you would find in a race shop or an auto shop, and you just lay it down on some of the moisture. Some tracks have sweepers where it actually grinds it in and sweeps it up, and then some tracks, what they have them do is it soaks up into the kitty litter, and then the drivers kind of run it in with their tires.
And you see they'll run through it here one more time out of turn number 2 before we get set for this restart. Still about 30 laps away from halfway in the Easter Bunny as Tate Fogelman and Shane Lee will lead them back to green here.
All the restarts going out of turn 4, and Fogelman has the advantage right now as he'll bring the field down the back straightaway. Look, he's got a feeding frenzy on his back bumper.
Much better restart this time than last time for Tate Fogelman, but Shane Lee battling back on the outside as they go into turn 1. And when you see those cars bottom out, Derek, that tells you just how hard they're driving it into the corners, because a lot of times when they jam the brakes on, the car will bottom out, and that's where you see those sparks.
And that's what you call the chassis landing. When it gets down into the corner and finally takes a set, the chassis lands. And, the better the chassis can land or stick into the corner, the better the car is going to handle. But Shane Lee, once again, trying that outside line on the restarts of Tate Fogelman, but it also looks like that as the tires get hot, he's not able to run the outside like he used to.
Matt Craig with a look down to the inside now in the CNC Boilers car number 54. And for the first time here this evening, looks like we may have a new second place runner as he noses out ahead of Shane Lee back into turn number 1, and still see that 00 car bottoming out on the outside, especially when he goes into turn 1.
You're watching the Easter Bunny 150 on Another Damn Sports Network. Look us up at anotherdamnsportsnetwork.com.
Craig clears Shane Lee, now opens up the inside lane for Derek Griffith in that car number 12G as Craig goes into second. Right back in behind the leader, Tate Fogelman, as they continue. Whoa, we got a big problem here out of turn 4. Several cars involved. There you see the 7 of Tyler Church, the 01 of Sammy Gooden.
Gooden trying to get that car fired back up. You saw the blast of flame out the back of it. That was just raw, non-burn fuel, and once they get it fired up, it just blows out the pipe.
Third caution of the evening here at Hickory Motor Speedway. Tyler Church fires it up. A lot of damage as we go to break here on ADSN.
We're going to go a full timeout. All I got to say is it football season yet? This stuff is too good to pass up. There's so many things that have to go right in a no-hitter. A huge game changer. I would have won the Powerball like 6 times.
Kevin Casey here, and this is your podcast, Talking About Sports, the Carolina's own sports talk show.
Track is cleared after a third caution of the evening here at Hickory Motor Speedway. The 2018 Easter Bunny 150 here on ADSN. As we get ready to go back to green, and for the first time tonight, Tate Fogelman's going to have someone other than Shane Lee to his outside. Matt Craig drives it hard into turns 1 and 2, Derek.
He had a very good launch on the restart. Look at him be able to get that good grip up off the corner and starting to open up the gap on Tate Fogelman.
That outside working well right now. Derek Griffith, he'll go into third in the 12 car. Now he works up to the outside of Tate Fogelman as Matt Craig, the leader. And one thing we've seen, and you mentioned it earlier, Derek, Craig's strategy, whether he starts at the front or whether he starts a little further back, is to get to the front as quickly as possible and dictate the pace, and it's worked well for him the last few years.
Well, he's very much one of those pace setter type of drivers. He's the one that likes to get out in front. If the car is running good for him, he'll take off and make everyone run as hard as he is. If he realizes that he has to save for later in the race, he won't run at full capacity, maybe backpedal it a little bit, but so he can still be able to be competitive so he can make it to the checkered flag.
Battle back for second just behind the leader, Matt Craig. We see it inching into the screen a couple of times. Tate Fogelman, he's had Derek Griffith up to his outside as Craig continues to lead. And it looks like Fogelman, he'll be able to clear Griffith now as we see the field work through turn number 4.
Plus also, when they have one of these restarts, you've got one of your best opportunities to make up positions, also to lose positions as well. But once that green flag flies once again, usually takes about a lap or 2 for the drivers to get back into running a good groove. The yellow flags break you out of your rhythm.
Lonnie Somerville in that red car number 2, making the trip down, the long trip from the Canadian Maritimes, New Brunswick. He ran really well here in the Easter Bunny back in 2009, led the most laps in that race before he had some problems late in the race and fell from contention. And this is his first trip back to the Easter Bunny in a number of years. Jody Meismer in the 98-15 of young Roy Hayes and the 76 of Jarek Johnson.
And there's a driver deeper in the field that we thought we'd see a lot better run. The 4 of Ben Rowe, that yellow number 4 car. Usually he's one of the heaviest hitters, but having a little bit of trouble tonight.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the problem has been on his car, but he is pitted several times under these cautions that we've had in the early going in that car number 4. He's a 2-time winner of the Easter Bunny 150, a 5-time past national champion. There you see the 00 of Brian Krusek, and he was involved in that accident a couple of cautions ago over in turn 2. A lot of damage to the nose, but it looks like they've done a good job to get it repaired.
Yeah, it was really just cosmetic damage. You don't want to drag the nose or have a fender rub or anything like that. He came down pit road. I mean, there's a lot of duct tape on the front of that car, but he's out there and he's still running laps and trying to stay competitive.
Ben Rowe now in that Toyota, moving down to the inside of Jarek Johnson in the My Computer Career Chevrolet, the car number 76. And looks like he'll be able to clear. You know, one thing I noticed, Derek, is as these cars work out of turn number 4, now working out of turn number 2, but we'll see it here in turn 4. And I've noticed it ever since I first came here to Hickory back in 2002, is those bumps out of turn number 4, it gets really, really almost like a washboard there coming out of turn 4.
And that upsets the car a lot. And it also is a huge factor in how much wheel spin you get out of the corner in turn 4. As you come up off the corner, naturally as a driver, you want to roll back into the throttle to get some speed to go down the straightaway. But when you hit those bumps, it gets the car light up off the ground. You lose traction, you can break the tires loose, and that also leads to more tire wear as well.
Well, it gets really tricky whenever you got something down to the inside of that left rear quarter panel or up under that rear bumper. You know, we see a lot of guys too there as they work through turns 1 and 2. They'll get down on that concrete on that end of the speedway, kind of de-wedge the car to help turn it down there on the apron. They've got asphalt in turns 3 and 4, and we'll see guys do that now as it's tightened up again back up front. Matt Craig the leader, but Tate Fogelman is closed back in as they go into turn 1.
Yeah, Matt Craig started to take off a little bit. He probably realized what he has to work with, so he didn't want to open it up anymore. Like we said earlier, he's a pace setter. He likes to kind of dictate how he's going to run his race. So he took off, felt the car, kind of you get an idea of where the car is going to go when the tires start to burn off, so then you can kind of back it up a little bit so you can conserve.
Hickory has not been one of his better speedways. It's not been a terrible racetrack for him. It's a track that he's led, and he's got some top 5s and top 10s, but whoa!
Trouble!
And it looked like Derek Griffith in that 12 car. Corey Heim nowhere to go as he'll make light contact with Griffith, but it looked like Griffith was maybe looking down on the inside of Tate Fogelman going down into turn 1. Fogelman slammed the door, and around goes Griffith. And you might not think it sometimes as a fan, but even when you're on the outside of a guy, sometimes you can sort of be aggressive and dictate whether or not that guy spins. And I think that might be what we just saw there going into turn 1.
Yeah, true. If you're on the outside of them, sometimes even if you make contact with the right front corner of the car, what happens is you give that car a point to spin off of, and the car on the inside can actually go around.
Especially when you're working the brake hard, like going down into turn number 1. As we see the wall of track champions from Gwen Staley in 1951. Look at those names, Derek. Ralph Earnhardt, Ned Jarrett. It's really unbelievable. There again, the guys who have won track championships here at Hickory.
Tommy Houston, Dennis Setzer. I mean, the names go on and on. I mean, you could look at some of those names and rattle off so many different stats that these drivers have had over the years.
Unbelievable, and that's what makes this Hickory Motor Speedway special. The inaugural champion, Gwen Staley. 69 races, 41 top 10 finishes, and 3 wins. And you know, for a long time, the 400 lapper at North Wilkesboro was actually named the Gwen Staley 400.
This track, like it says right on the wall, the birthplace of the NASCAR stars. And we've got Ben Rowe, like we said, once again, down on pit road again, getting adjustments.
What do you see there, Derek? Is that a stagger thing? It looked like they might have been measuring that right rear tire You can't change tires in this race. You can swap tires. You can make air pressure adjustments. What did you see there specifically on Ben Rowe's car?
Well, we saw the one guy come out from underneath it with the tape measure, and he put up 4 fingers. So I can only guess that he's telling the crew there's probably 4 inches of stagger on the car out there right now. If the car is loose, what you'll want to do is close up that stagger to tighten the car up. But if the car is pushing, you want to increase stagger.
And stagger, it's a term you don't hear a lot now in cup racing because they run on radial tires, but you want those outside tires, the right side tires, to be a little bit bigger than the inside tires to help the car turn. As we get ready for this restart, Matt Craig, the leader, for the first time tonight, Tate Fogelman on the outside for a restart, and boy, does he get a good restart.
Tell you, the outside tonight has really been a good place for restarts. You'll be able to get a really good grip and a good launch, and that's exactly what Fogelman got. He got a good restart and a good launch, but we're going to see if he can keep Matt Craig at bay.
We've seen that for years and a lot of times on these double file restarts, but especially here at Hickory, it seems like if you can get that good start going into turn 1, you can bind that guy up on the inside, he loses momentum, and a lot of times you could clear him before we get back to turn 3.
And that was the key word that you just said, Alan. Bind. You put a little bit of a bind in the car. When you run on the inside, you bind the car up because you're making a tighter line. When you run up on the outside, it's a little straighter than the 2 lines. And like we said, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. You don't bind the car up. You can able to get that good restart.
And look at Preston Peltier in that car number 48. He has worked that outside line pretty much exclusively since he started back in 10th on the original start, and he's doing exactly what we were just talking about there, Derek.
And sometimes all you have to do is find a groove that works for you. If you can find a groove that you're comfortable in and you can feel it work for you, it gives you confidence as a driver. Then you can throw it into the corner and realize, okay, I can roll in better than him and get back to the throttle. Oh, caution is out on the racetrack.
And we saw the leaders kind of work around there. I think a car might have spun over on the back straightaway as we close in, and there you see it's the actually it was some debris there off of that car number 71, a Harold Fair Jr. He had somebody clip the nose on that car, and although he didn't spin, he continued. You can see part of the nose is still there, but part of the nose is over on the back straightaway, and that's the reason for the caution here.
Well, the nose has come in 2 halves, and yeah, and that is part of it that is folded over on that number 71 machine of Harold Fair. And Alan, I can't tell you how many of those things I've replaced on late models over the years.
Famous name there, Harold Fair Jr. His dad, Harold Fair, one of the best in the Midwest back in the 70s and 80s, and Harold Fair Jr. trying his hand at it. First pass series start here this weekend as he'll pull that car back behind the wall, and looks like they've probably got bigger problems on that car number 71 than just a little nose damage.
Yeah, he hasn't been very competitive all night. He's been essentially a back marker, and the crew is looking under the hood right now, so it could be an engine issue.
You see Seneca Performance on the back of that car. Only a couple of Seneca chassis in this field. He and Bubba Pollard, a lot of the cars in the South run Hemke chassis or Fury chassis, some CFR chassis, Dale Shaw chassis out of New England. And good to see that Seneca chassis here this weekend, but not the result that Harold Fair Jr. is looking for. As it looks like Timmy Hudson is giving the field a double up indication. Now, one thing that is different from the double file restarts we see on Sundays is the leader on Sundays has the option to pick the inside or outside. Not the case in past. If you're the leader, you always start inside of row number 1. If you're second, you always start outside of row number 1.
And that's traditional short track Saturday night racing. You can go to any type of short track across the country and find that's how they do the restarts. Double file usually. On dirt tracks, they do a lot of single file restarts, but that's also because it becomes down to a scoring issue.
Fogelman the leader, but now he's got Preston Peltier up to his outside as we go back under green here. Closing in on halfway, just 8 laps away, and boy, does Peltier do it with ease into turn 3. He goes to the lead.
Got that good run up on the outside. Shane Lee coming with him, figuring it out where it's going to work for him, and they both make the pass on Tate Fogelman. Matt Craig now, he sees the outside working, and like we said before, it's that monkey see, monkey do thing.
They continue to battle for third. And this is as far back as we've seen that 8-car of Fogelman all night. You wonder if maybe he has a problem. Is he pacing himself? Has he pushed that car too hard here in the early going? Hard to tell right now, but he's back to 4th.
Well, Tate Fogelman also has not come off the bottom like everyone else has. Oh, caution is out on the track.
Some of that yellow fever sometimes we see in a big problem over on the back straightaway. Looked like Roy Hayes had a problem. He has moved away, and we saw a lot of hard contact. Joe Squiglia Jr. in the 0-3, the 2 of Gabe Brown, the red car number 2 of Lonnie Somerville. All involved in this accident over on the back straightaway when a few cars got bottled up. More from here at Hickory Motor Speedway when we come back.
We're going to go a full time now. All I got to say is it football season yet? This stuff is too good to pass up. There's so many things that have to go right in a no-hitter. A huge game changer. I would have won the Powerball like 6 times.
Kevin Casey here, and this is your podcast, Talking About Sports, the Carolina's own sports talk show.
Welcome back to the Hickory Motor Speedway. Derek Perniciglio alongside Alan Dietz here for the Pass South Easter Bunny 150 green flag laps of super late model action here at America's Short Track, the Hickory Motor Speedway. And we're talking about sports. That's our live streaming show every Thursday. You can visit it at facebook.com/Talking About Sports. Everything from stick and ball sports to auto racing to everything that's going on in football, hockey, and everything in between. That's Talking About Sports, streaming live every Thursday on facebook.com/We Talking About Sports.
70 laps completed, Derek, as we get ready for another restart. Now Preston Peltier, your leader in that car number 48. Shane Lee up to his outside as they come back and we go green again.
Nice even start this time. Preston Peltier with a good launch. Shane Lee also with another one of those runs. Tried to make it up on the outside, but Preston Peltier looks just to be a little too strong for him.
Peltier will clear Lee as they go back into turn number 1. Matt Craig up to 3rd. Look like Tate Fogelman just outside of the screen, continuing to drop back in the 8 car. He's got Trevor Knowles down to his inside. And you just wonder if Fogelman might have pushed it a little bit too hard here in the first half of this race, Derek.
That is a possibility. The car could be starting to fade, but he also has some heavy hitters coming up behind him. Here comes that number 6 of Brandon Setzer.
I think Brandon, he started back about 20th, and I saw DJ Shaw back there too. He started 21st, and they're both right now running about 6th and 7th, so a good job for them. As we watch the leaders, Peltier the leader, about a half groove up from the inside. Lee working the low line in that 00 car. Matt Craig in 3rd, and we saw that good battle between Trevor Knowles and Tate Fogelman just behind the leaders as Peltier about a car length or so ahead of Lee out of turn 4.
The top 5 has distanced themselves a little bit from the rest of the field. Good battle, though, for the 6th position out there with Setzer, and we have reached the halfway point in this race, and there is Tate Fogelman trying that high line. That's the first time we've seen him venture up top all night, Alan.
Well, you wonder if he's trying it intentionally or if he's being forced up there by the handling of the car. What would force you to go up there, Derek, as far as the characteristics of the handling changes?
That's really just it. You're searching around for a line that's going to work with how the car is changing. As the course of the race goes on, tires and fuel burn off, so where you've been running doesn't work. So you have to move around to find what is going to work for the handling of that race car.
Single file, the top 4 are right now Preston Peltier, Shane Lee, Matt Craig, and the 22 of Trevor Knowles, again coming out of the Donnie Wilson Racing stables and doing a pretty good job right now. Cole Butcher drove for that team here last year, young driver out of Nova Scotia, and finished 4th right where Trevor Knowles is running right now.
Yeah, Knowles was one of those drivers that was up on the top line of the track a little while ago, and now he's down on the bottom. Really another one of those drivers that's probably searching around to see what's going to work best for his car. And there's the number 54 of Craig. And, of course, John Craig, the CNC Boiler team, how much success did they have over the years, Alan?
Oh, you think about the drivers. We talked about Jeff Fultz having driven for them. Clay Rogers drove for them. Rodney Childers, Kevin Harvick's crew chief drove for that team all in the late 1990s and late model stock cars and all pro cars, and that winning tradition continues now, but with one of the family members, Matt Craig, driving the car.
Jeff Volz became the winningest driver in all pro competition, driving for that JCR3 racing team, and everybody now starting to get single file Allen around the track.
Yep, first battle's about for 10th. We saw that yellow car go out of the frame. That was Ben Rowe. Looked like he and Jeff Fultz battling side by side. Now they single it out down the back straightaway as the fans continue to watch now, getting into the second half, well into the second half of this Easter Bunny 150 with Preston Peltier leading. And I think the thing, Derek, that I notice is we talk about the low line, we talk about the high line, but when you see a car like Preston Peltier, they seem to work no matter where you put it. Some cars work just good on the outside or on the inside. His car's working well on both sides right now, and there you see 6th and 7th. Brandon Setzer and DJ Shaw started 20th and 21st respectively. They both had quite a drive to the front here.
Yeah, Setzer in the Romeo Guest number 6. Of course, him being the son of Dennis Setzer, who is widely known for being a short track master, and Brandon Setzer, starting to fit that mold as well. We haven't seen Brandon Setzer move up at all through the NASCAR ranks or anything. He's kind of found his home in late model racing.
DJ Shaw taking a peek up to the outside now here in that Precision JLM car number 60 out of Center Conway, New Hampshire, a two-time past North champion. And just like you mentioned with Brandon Setzer, he has followed his father, Dale Shaw, up through the ranks and really considered one of the top short trackers in the country, especially out of New England.
Yeah, Dale Shaw, former Busch North Series champion, won it in the early 90s. A lot of people know him from running that green and white Skoal-sponsored number 7 for many, many years. But DJ Shaw, very talented racer as well, and he has a lot of success with that Precision JLM team. But another driver, like we were talking about, had some success over the years. Jeff Fultz was retired, I guess you could say, for a couple of years, but now he hops back into the seat every once in a while just to get that desire to run once again.
Yeah, just taking 8th there from Derek Griffith, and Fultz, 50 years old, but never officially retired, I think he would tell you. But he has worked for Hickory Race Cars now for the last few years, helping clients set up cars, and still very capable behind the wheel as we continue to see just in front of him Tate Fogelman fall back. Fogelman now back to 7th, just in front of Fultz. And in front of Fultz, and now that's allowing Derek Griffith to go back up to the outside of the 54X.
Yeah, Fogelman is holding Fultz up right now. He's trying to get past, but he realizes the outside line is the faster line. Griffith is trying to make it roll better, but Fogelman working both sides of the street right now, and there goes Fultz underneath the inside of him. Fultz with a lot of experience, a lot of patience as well. I mean, you don't have this many wins and this much experience in championships without having some patience. And Jeff Fultz has been a winner in different types of trouble out there.
Little bit of contact, and I think that could be from that contact we actually saw earlier when Derek Griffith spun. I think that might have been a little bit of payback as he door slammed Tate Fogelman that time out of turn 4.
That, and it also looks like he got impatient with him. You know, Fogelman was working both sides of the street for a while, and you kind of have enough, and you're going to move him out of the way and say, hey, move. It's time for you to get out of the way.
And he definitely did that as he'll clear now. It moves him up a little bit further as Fogelman drops out of the top 10. There's your leader, Preston Peltier, a 4-time Easter Bunny 150 winner. The all-time leading winner in Pass South and here at Hickory Motor Speedway.
And they're actually getting help and support from Roger Lee Newton, the Newton Concrete, and Roger Lee Newton, also well-known southeastern late model racer in this area. More in late model stocks, though, than super late models.
You actually see the number 33 associated with that Newton team on the rear quarter panels on the left rear and on the right rear, as Shane Lee now again about a car length behind Peltier as they go back into turn number 1 here. Ford and Chevrolet battling up at the front of the field, just the way it should be in stock car racing, and Lee closes in again here just a little bit on Peltier.
Top 3 as they run right now, with Preston Peltier leading the way, Shane Lee, that's the battle you're watching out on the track right now. Matt Craig, he just added the camera shot in that number 54 machine. Craig, always a competitive driver in this field, and has a couple of wins to his credit so far this year. And there's the driver we were just talking about.
There's Craig in the 54. Back behind them, how about DJ Shaw? We saw him work the high line around Brandon Setzer. Now he works the high line around Trevor Knowles. And that'll move the 60 car up into 4th. And they've had a long day. He had a broken axle in practice, lost a right rear tire, and actually was able to keep that car off the wall. Didn't qualify where he wanted to, had to race his way in through the last chance race. And he has got that car hooked up, all things considered, right now up into 4th.
Yeah, Dave Weir is the spotter on the car, the number 60 of Dale Shaw. I've been listening to him on the radio throughout the course of the day, really just trying to keep DJ calm. He realized they came a long way and they really want to be competitive, but when you have this many issues, you have to just deal with the problems in hand, and then just a lot of compartmentalization. Now you have to get into the race.
And don't forget, Derek, one thing that we've talked a little bit about tonight, but the top 5 finishers here in this Easter Bunny 150 get either a guaranteed starting spot in the Oxford 250. That race pays $25,000 to win at Oxford Plains Speedway in August, or the inaugural Past Commonwealth Classic at Richmond Raceway in October. So some big things on the line in addition to winning this Easter Bunny 150 to try and get locked into those 2 prestigious races.
You know, and that's really going to be a huge event for short track racers to be able to run at a place like the Richmond International Raceway. This really goes back to like what Kevin Harvick was talking about in a press conference a few weeks ago. You got to give these guys a bigger stage to race on. It makes them more apt to come back to your facility to patron it when the big race comes into town.
And you're not only going to have past super late models there at Richmond in October, but also late model stock cars, limited late models, and street stock. So grassroots racers from a variety of different backgrounds are going to get that opportunity to race at Richmond in October in front of a great crowd, just like we see here tonight.
And the big thing about a race like that, it's not about the money, it's not about the trophy, it's for a chance for the driver to say, I won at Richmond.
Yeah, and you know, Derek, when you think about it, that's a short track in NASCAR, but you take a 3/4 mile racetrack where guys are normally used to racing on, maybe a half mile, but a lot of times 4/10, 3/8, thirds of a mile, quarter mile. A 3/4 mile racetrack is really a super speedway, and you'll see those guys, I'm pretty sure, drafting whenever they go to Richmond.
Very true. I mean, if you're a short track racer or a street stock racer that runs at a weekly Saturday night track, a place like Richmond or a place like Loudon, New Hampshire feels like a super speedway to you. Now, obviously, it feels like a short track for the Cup guys because they're racing at over 200 miles an hour every weekend on tracks that are up to 2.5 miles. But for the little guys, like these guys, to get a chance to race at Richmond, that's a huge stage for them.
And when we say little guys, that is by no means disrespect. It really reflects on the budget. You're talking about guys that some work on these race cars on dirt floors. They work just like you, Derek, in shops, back behind their homes. These are not multi-million-dollar budgets or facilities.
Well, we're talking about are the guys that work 40 hours a week at their regular job and then come home and work on their cars for another 40 hours a week in the garage at night. Those are the guys we're talking about, the blue-collar racers. When we say little guy, we don't mean someone that's poor. What we mean is an independent racer.
And that is really where a lot of the drivers that we've seen make it in the big leagues most started. Dale Earnhardt worked in a mill, and you go through the list. I think Darrell Waltrip was a truck driver. I mean, you just go through the list of folks that were shade tree mechanics and ended up getting an opportunity to race in the big time. And sometimes that might be lost now. But seeing guys like Tate Fogelman, I hope he's not going to agree with this, but I'd love if he's driving a super late model 10 years from now, because we need that continuity in short track racing too.
And the one thing, though, about all those famous drivers that you mentioned, Alan, is that they all came from a racetrack like this.
Couple of cars on the tail end of the lead lap just in front of the leaders, and it's a couple of our Canadian drivers, New Brunswick's Lonnie Somerville in the red car number 2, and then that car number 24 out of Ontario of JP Yosiasa. He'll move down to the inside, and that allows Preston Peltier and Shane Lee to work to his outside. JP, actually the owner and promoter of Peterborough Speedway in Ontario, and their season's going to start up in May, I believe, as the leaders will clear both of those drivers from Canada who made 20-plus hour trips to race here at Hickory this weekend.
Hey, 20-plus hours, that's a long drive, and you see them moving out of the way. They got the move over flag, and they gave courtesy to the leaders, and that's a huge thing. You got to give the leaders a lane to race in as they come by.
And JP doing a great job in that car number 24 with Kodie Conner's problems. He could move as far up as second in past South points if he can continue where he is here in the Easter Bunny 150. Winding it down now, about 30 laps to go as Preston Peltier continues to lead in that Ford that was hauled all the way from where it was built in Colorado, where he now lives. Peltier serious about becoming a 5-time winner here this Easter Bunny 150. But Shane Lee, pretty serious himself, back in second, staying lockstep right now with the leader Peltier.
And these two have really started to walk away from third on back. They have taken off as the class of the field. Like you said, Preston Peltier trying to become a 4-time winner of this race, but the other 5-time winner of this race. But the other thing that he's also trying to do is win this race for the second year in a row as well.
DJ Shaw, he's moved up now into third in that car number 60, but well behind the leaders. And I don't know if you caught it there, Derek, on that last wide shot. Tate Fogelman right now in danger of going a lap down. He dominated the first half of this race.
That's what'll happen sometimes. You're really good at the end of the beginning of the race. You're not good at the end of the race, and there are some guys that are nice and patient. They'll save their stuff at the beginning, so they're there at the end. One of the things that you also have to consider tonight is how cold it is out there on the racetrack. I mean, we've seen a lot of comers and goers throughout the course of the race. The cold temperatures can do that. Sometimes the tires get up to operating temperature. You get a caution flag, and they go through a heat cycle, and they'll get harder, or the composition of the tire changes.
20 laps to go, as Derek mentioned, and the caution is out. Here now with 20 laps to go, and boy, could that change things, because that's now going to allow DJ Shaw to close up on the tail of Preston Peltier and Shane Lee. The conclusion of the Easter Bunny 150 drawing near here on ADSN.
We're going to go a full timeout. All I got to say is it football season yet? This stuff is too good to pass up. There's so many things that have to go right in a no-hitter. A huge game changer. I would have won the Powerball like 6 times.
Kevin Casey here, and this is your podcast, Talking About Sports, the Carolina's own sports talk show.
Alan Dietz and Derek Pernasiglio here with you on ADSN for coverage of the 13th annual Easter Bunny 150 from here at Hickory Motor Speedway. And just a few laps left to go, about 20 or so. Preston Peltier, Shane Lee, and DJ Shaw, your top 3. And you got to wonder here, Derek, closing in on this restart, what has DJ Shaw got for these guys? He's come from 21st. Has he got anything left for these guys who have been leading here for about the last 70 laps or so?
Well, if I'm DJ Shaw, the first thing that I'm thinking is keep these guys in my sight. In the previous laps that we've run, Shane Lee, Preston Peltier, they've opened up a huge gap between themselves and third on back. So my biggest intention is to keep these guys close to me and not let them get away.
Peltier, he'll clear lead down into turn number 1, and just back behind them, the two who have been tied together throughout much of this race. DJ Shaw in the 60 car and Brandon Setzler in the 6. They continue to ride side by side for third into turn 1. That is not what they need right now.
A lot of guys are able to roll the top, and really surprised at how good the top is coming in tonight. We saw a lot of guys working on the bottom, and then we saw a lot of single file racing on the bottom. But as the race goes on, we talked about it earlier, you get all these cars out on the track, and they start to widen out the groove over the course of 150 laps.
Peltier not saving anything at this point. Here with about 15 laps to go in the Easter Bunny 150. It's hard to believe, but that's the biggest lead we've seen all night. He's got about 5 car lengths, make it 6 over Shane Lee. And then you see DJ Shaw and Brandon Setzer right now battling back for third. But all of a sudden, after just a few laps back under green, they're about a straightaway behind the leader, Preston Peltier.
And here comes Jeff Fulch. You can see him just peeking into the picture every so often. He's just knocking on the door of the top 5 right now, and he'll definitely be a factor at the end of this race. But we have reached the point, Alan, where it's that let it eat time. Don't hold back. Go up, push the car at 100% and get to the checkered flag.
If you're enjoying tonight's race and tonight's coverage and you want more great sports coverage, go to anotherdamnsportsnetwork.com. And don't forget, whoops, as the caution flag waves again here on lap 137, 13 laps to go. And more contact. I believe Jody Meismer in the car number 98 went around down in turn 1, didn't make any contact with anything, but spun over in turn 1, and that'll bring the caution out. And these guys will get another chance. As we also see the 08 of Nicholas Noggle involved. Another chance to go after Preston Peltier. Here's the Easter Bunny 150 winds down.
We're talking about sports on AM.
We're talking about sports at ADSN. I don't know how to say that.
We're talking about
sports in, oh God, I forgot.
ADSN.
What is it?
ADSN.
ADSN, okay.
Yeah. We're talking about sports.
Talking about sports.
We're talking about sports.
Talking sports. Talking about sports. We're talking about sports on ADSN.
Talking about sports on ADSN.
Back at Hickory Motor Speedway in the waning laps of the 13th annual Easter Bunny 150 in Hickory, North Carolina. Alan Dietz and Derek Pernasiglio here with you as the field is going to double up. And Derek, has anybody got anything for Preston Peltier as we're about a lap away from going back to green with just 13 to go?
No, they don't. I honestly don't think they have anything for Preston.
Great way to build up the tension.
I don't think they have anything for Preston Peltier tonight.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
On a tear all night. He and Shane Lee have broken away from the rest of the field. Shane Lee is good, but Preston Peltier has just been better tonight. And you can see as the laps click on, he just gets into his pace, and he starts to open it up between himself and the rest of the pack.
Well, Shane Lee's got that in his back pocket, and he'll get a good restart this time down into turn number 1. He and Peltier side by side down the back straightaway. But again, Peltier with that good run down on the bottom, he clears Lee out of turn number 4.
Well, the good part with Peltier, too, is that he can run the top or the bottom tonight. You watched him make his passes to come through the front.
The racetrack, though, Derek.
On the top. He did move up the racetrack, but he made a lot of his passes heading to the front on the outside. Once he was able to get out front, he was running the bottom down on the inside line of the track. Now he sees that his car can work in both spots, and really he can keep Shane Lee behind him.
His car's pushed up the racetrack, though, the last couple of laps. And again, you see him kind of go up the racetrack out of turn 4, and Lee's been able to chomp down just a little bit on him. He is right on that rear deck lid now as they go down the back straightaway.
Lee using his experience here, is trying to nudge him a little bit and get some little spit sideways.
But you see what happened there, Derek. It looked like Shane Lee, after he got Peltier up the racetrack, hit the gas, his car broke loose, and just like that, Peltier's about a car length and a half back ahead of that 00 of Lee.
And that can hurt you. Sometimes all you have to do is just spin those tires a little bit, get them just a little too hot for a second, and then they're junk.
And that might be all Preston Peltier needed. I know Shane Lee is going to try to close back in. Meanwhile, you see a change back for third. Brandon Setzer, he was able to get around DJ Shaw and clear him but I don't know if he's going to have enough time to close back up here on these leaders as the laps continue to click down. And again there, Derek, Shane Lee closing back in just a little bit on Peltier.
And, well, that's what happened. He got a little bit loose. He fell back a little bit, was now able to gather it up and start making another run on him one more time. You can see Preston Peltier's car getting a little bit tighter. He's moved up maybe a little bit of a half of a groove. The reason why you do that is when the car starts to push, you bring it out a little bit so you're making less of a tighter line. But if you watch him in 1 and 2, he's trying to get the car to turn by hooking the bottom and putting that left front tire on the apron. Watch as he goes down into 1. He did it the previous lap. We'll see if he does it again. Yep, right there he did it. You saw the car just twitch a little bit.
I don't think there's any doubt about it coming around this time with 3 laps to go. If Lee can get back to Peltier, he's going to have to lay the bumper to him. I mean, these cars are really, really evenly matched.
Well, as the laps click on, too, we're starting to see the distance open up slightly between he and Shane Lee. But here we come to 2 to go.
Not a lot of distance, just about maybe 3 car lengths for Peltier as he leads down the back straightaway.
Peltier, 4th win, looking for his 5th. Shane Lee right behind him, one of the masters of this track. He's going to try his hand at the Xfinity Series this year, but Alan, final lap.
Out of turn number 2, Peltier works down the back straightaway for the final time. Unbelievable. He's going to do it for a 5th time here in the Easter Bunny 150. Preston Peltier will take the checkered flag. Shane Lee going to come home in 2nd. Brandon Setzer will finish in 3rd. 4th going to go to DJ Shaw, and 5th to Jeff Fultz.
Great run by Preston Peltier. Actually a great one by a lot of the guys in the top 5, but boy, did he put on a clinic tonight. He really showed that you could run the top, you could run the bottom, and still end up in victory lane.
Preston Peltier, he's going to go to victory lane. We're going to catch up with him when we come back here on ADSN.
It was an exciting night of racing here at the Hickory Motor Speedway. Preston Peltier, Shane Lee, they put on a clinic all night. So did Tate Fogelman. Of course, we had some action going on out there with some wrecks in the back straightaway. But when it was all said and done, nobody was touching Preston Peltier as he brings home his 5th Easter Bunny 150 win. A brand new baby in victory lane. His daughter, Alan Dietz, is making his way down to victory lane to meet up with Preston Peltier.
Preston Peltier, he'll take his 5th win in the Easter Bunny 150 here tonight. And Preston, I know this one's special for you.
Yeah, my daughter's here. My fiance's here. All my good friends and family are here. I got to see Turner. He's my old crew chief. Man, I miss him every day. And it just feels good.
What does it mean for you to win this race, but to win it 5 times? I mean, now you come in here and people kind of expect you to, and I know that's got to be a lot of pressure.
No, you know, that's what makes this fun is because when I come here, I don't feel the pressure. You know, I know what I want to feel in the car. You know, I get to see, like I said, all my friends and family, and it just doesn't feel – it's a big race, but it doesn't – I don't put the pressure on myself, and I think that's probably why I do so well here. I just love this place.
Preston Peltier, the all-time wins leader in Pass South, takes another win here at Hickory Motor Speedway.
Thanks a lot, Alan, and that's one of the big things to being successful at a racetrack is you got to love the place. So Preston Peltier picks up the win. Shane Lee, Brandon Setzer, they round out the top 3. DJ Shaw, Jeff Fultz will finish 4th and 5th. Looking back deeper in the field, Tate Fogelman, he fell to 11th spot at the end of it. Lonnie Somerville in the 16th position, and then we had guys like Brian Krusek in 14th, and Jarek Johnson, who was running near the front of the field, finished in the 20th spot. 21st through 32nd, look at some of the big names that were back there. Bubba Pollard finished 32nd. Gracie Trotter with an accident out there on the track. Of course, Derek Ramstrom, he was able to finish the race in 21st, but Kodie Conner, who we talked to in the beginning of the show, he finished in the 25th position. Cars are being rolled out of victory lane right now, and they're going to head off to post-race inspection. We want to thank all of you for joining us here at the Hickory Motor Speedway. Alan Dietz is making his way up top, and we're going to talk to him in just a few minutes.
reps on this one. Yeah. It's been sunny all week. The weatherman said today's almost gonna be as hot as this beat. Plus the words that I speak. I got out of the shower, hit the barbershop, and got in the seat. They talking about the game from last night and placing bets on who gon' win tonight's fight. I got out of the chair, fresh to death. Look down, check my phone, cause I just got a text. My man's at the car wash, so it's gonna be on tonight. There's a party, and it's gonna be tight. I ain't gotta be told twice. Went and got me some rest, cause it's gonna be one of those nights. Can already see it. Text again, said you saw one I slept on and a best friend. When the sun's bright and the wind don't blow, you really hope that tomorrow comes slow. Yeah, I ain't got a care in the world, just got paid. Got the slick shades and the fresh fade. We gon' have a good time, everybody keep it tight. Get right, keep it moving all night. Yeah, get my dance on. Yeah, come on, come on, come on. Yeah, let's go. Check. It's almost 10, the sun's gone, but it's still hot, and my phone's been ringing non-stop. My dog pulled up in the coupe, push the button and there's air where there used to be a sunroof. Yeah, we're stunning hard, switching lanes on the highway. Get to the spot and the line's down the block. Not a problem when you flow like this. Dap the bouncer while the valet park the whips. The DJ's dropping those hits, and these chicks look like it's a...
Welcome back as we wind it up here at Hickory Motor Speedway on 80SN. And Derek, it's been a great afternoon of short track racing here at Hickory Motor Speedway. What we always seem to come to expect out of this Easter Bunny.
A fun night of racing, a cold night for the competitors, but a really good night for the engines and the cars. Actually, they can run good in this cold, brisk weather. But we saw a lot of fun racing out there tonight. We saw two groups being used out there, and we saw a lot of guys come from the rear and make their way to the front.
No doubt about it. It's been a great Easter Bunny 150 won by Preston Peltier. Remember, for more information about PASS, you can go to ProAllStarSeries.com. Also, check out Hickory Motor Speedway at HickoryMotorspeedway.com. And you know what? Wherever you are watching here on 80SN, be sure to go to your local short track and support grassroots racing. For Derek Perniciglio, I'm Alan Dietz. Thanks for watching the Easter Bunny 150. Congratulations to tonight's winner, Preston Peltier.